Well, let's touch base with one of the other issues that we shall be discussing tonight. And my guests are ready in our Abuja studio. It's about the forensic audit report that has been submitted to the federal government, received on behalf of the president by the Attorney General of the Federation and the Ministry of Justice, Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And it was presented to him by the Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, in Abuja. But the essence of this forensic report is to look at what has happened. Some of the contracts that have been awarded, have they been done? What is the essence of all of these forensic report? And that has been some of the issues that have been raised. But exactly, what are the issues on this matter? First and foremost, what does the forensic report say? How comprehensive is the audit? How does this help the Niger Delta development? These are some of the issues that we'll be raising. But in the totality of it, the bottom line is that what is next for the NDDC? Let's speak with my guests who are in our Abuja studio. I have joining me Mr. Cletus Obun, a former lawmaker and a chieftain of the APC, and as well as a strategist, a researcher, Mr. Kolawole Johnson, one man that we engaged so much on this matter some months back when the furore about the NDDC first came up. Mr. Kolawole Johnson, thank you so much, as well as Mr. Cletus Obun. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Let me begin the conversation with you, Mr. Johnson. It's over a week now since that report was submitted to the federal government from the Niger Delta Development, Niger Delta Affairs Ministry. But from your own point of view, for someone who had monitored the process up until the point that the forensic report is being submitted, and we understand that several projects have been abandoned, not done, payment has been made, but not done. There are a lot of companies that have been indicted in that report. What do you know about that forensic report, the audit report, that you can tell us tonight?
Well, I think until the government makes a report public, of course, there will be no way we can get the full details of the report. However, the good thing is that the report is out, and some of the things that we've heard first gave credence to the noise we made, over time about the commission, has been a cesspool of corruption over time. However, we shall be waiting for the details of the report so that we can compare notes. For example, we're not the only one. There are other organizations, that did a lot of work on contract awards in the commission. So if we get the details, we should be able to compare notes and see if actually the auditors did a good job or not. And one other thing we'll be looking at is why is it that the government deliberately excluded the period, say 2019 to 2020? Let's assume that we can't even add 2021 because it's not over yet. So what happens to between 2019 late and 2020? However, let's wait to have the report, to have the details of the reports, and that's where I think we should also clamor and put pressure on the government to give us the details. And don't forget that there are political issues around this. Politicians who are indicted, maybe going, maybe lobbying behind, perhaps to get their name out of the hook. But the earlier they release the report to us, the better. So for me, and for those I speak for, I think we're waiting earnestly for the details of the report, and we shall be writing to demand for the details, perhaps in a few days.
So from some of the little that we know, especially what the minister said and what the AGF said, let me first and foremost allow everyone to remind everyone what was said when that report was submitted. Let me remind you of the Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs and the Attorney General, what they said when that report was being submitted. Take a listen to them.
Why did the search was going on? Many of the past contractors went back to site, and they were able to complete over 77 roads. Look at the 13,777 projects. Look at the over 3.2 trillion that had already been captured in this report, and see some of the projects that could still be beneficial to the people of the Niger Delta region.
The federal government will, without hesitation, strategically implement all aspects of the audit exercise that will promote fluidity and greater prosperity for the Niger Delta region and Nigeria as a whole.
So, from the submission, Mr. Kolawole Johnson, it said that the report, based on what the president said, it's supposed to cover 2011 to 2019, and we're being told that a total of 13,777 contracts were awarded from that 2001 to 2019, with the value of almost 3 trillion naira. From what the two ministers said, what's your take?
Sean, you know, the main reason why we keep insisting on having the details of the report, one, we learned our lessons last year when we were bringing out details, document, fact, and at the end of the day, you know, some folks were going behind to work their way to the answer based on the document in circulation. So that we're very careful with today. Now, secondly, without running the risk of being on the side of those who have shortchanged the people for long, even the data that we heard released, we have questions about them, about the accuracy. For example, you will, if you check the auditor's report, I mean the Nations Ages report, auditing report of the Commission over time, you will always see discrepancies between the figures of NDDC and the Auditor General's report, the figures in terms of what they receive and what they have spent. So I think all of this, one thing is certain, a lot of atrocities would have been discovered. So that's no doubt, if actually they did their job. Secondly, I'm not one who want to be so pessimistic that I won't be optimistic enough that the government would act. I want to be optimistic that the government would not have gone all this way. To spend so much money to unravel, to get to the root of fraud in that place without using it. So with that seriousness also, I know they will also need us to help them by ensuring that the fact, the figures, the documents, the report they have, that they are not just up to date, that they are accurate. So we are also relying on the government to play their part by making the report public, or invite stakeholders that they know have done works, have done some research on this commission to bring fact to the table to compare with what they have, so that one time for all, we can deal with the devil. Nobody will go back to the last 20 years to start auditing again. So let's do this once and for all. Whether the minister mentioned 13,000 projects or they mentioned 6 trillion or 3 trillion, let's leave that aside and demand for the details so that we can do a thorough job once and for all. Sean, that's my take for now. I don't want to run the risk of pushing out documents again and some folks will walk, to the answer. Let me give you an example. Again, that earlier this year, there was something we did, and of course, we saw the commission again reversing and working to answers. But right now, we have learned our lesson. So let's keep gathering our documents, keeping them until the right time when we sit on the table to compare notes, look at the report so we can take a proper steps. Thank you.
Let me bring in Mr. Obun. For the Niger Delta region, what does this forensic report mean? Mr. Obun, can you hear me? He seems to be having issues hearing me. Can you hear me? If so, if you can hear me, the question is, what does the forensic audit report mean for the Niger Delta region?
Well, let me make the point. If I get to that first part of it is all encompassing. I want to dedicate this program today to a late friend and colleague, the former Speaker of the Crossover House of Assembly, and to the presidency for once speaking straight on by accepting that they will accept the judgment of the court in Port Harcourt over VAT. I want to dedicate this to President Buhari's credentials. But having said that, on the forensic audit, For the Niger Delta people.
You only dedicate what you have power over. You are a guest on the program, Mr. Obun. You are just a participant of the program. So when you only dedicate what you have power or what you own. We are invited you. We are the owner of the program. We are inviting you. And when you're making a dedication, it's as though you are the owner of the program. But go ahead and make your submissions, please.
In any case, I'm just always saying that we are getting better and better, and our democracy is getting more and more fermented and getting better. The older it is, the better for Nigeria and Nigerians. The reason is that the forensic audit is what has been holding our entire patrimony in hostage by a few persons in the Niger Delta. This exposition is like an epiphany, a realization that the Nigerian nation and the Niger Delta people, from the time of Isaac Adakaboro of the 12th-day revolution down to Ken Saro-Wiwa, the environmentalist, up till my late friend also, Douglas Oronto and others who have been there, and the living ones like Pa Ike Clark, the Niger Delta people can get only better with this forensic audit. And like my friend Johnson has just made a point, we have not seen the forensic audit. Until we see it, making comments on it will only be speculative. We can't speculate on a serious matter. When you say forensic audit, it means there are grave details there in which every comment that is made should be traced to a fact on ground. But for whatever it is meant, for whatever it is worth, I can assure you that the release of the forensic audit is a vindication that the Niger Delta people have been shortchanged over time, bleeding with fraud, corruption, and all forms of things, denial, not by foreigners and by non-indigenous, but by indigenous Niger Delta people. This is the tragedy of this entire saga of NDDC, coming from Umpadek. Indeed, if you remember, it was in the interest of the Niger Delta people that the ministry was created just to also buttress the issue of Umpadek and NDDC. An entire ministry was dedicated to it. Never in our history do we have it so good. But somehow, some people, mindlessly, spinelessly, cold-bloodedly, have murdered the entire comfort of Niger Delta people. Today, as we talk, if you look at that forensic, I'm very sure that it will be dealing with more with uncompleted projects, half completed projects, projects completed without specification, duplication of projects between local government, state and the federal government, and interagency duplications, all with the intent of some people amassing wealth meant for the Niger Delta people. This is the crux of the matter. Whoever is interested in the Niger Delta people and their welfare must be interested in the details of this audit, and to the extent that we must interrogate it to the letter. It is not about Buhari's administration. It is not about Akpabio. It's not about the NDDC having a board or no board. It is about finding solutions of how to utilize money meant for the development of the Niger Delta people and their welfare. If the sums being paddled are anything to go by, the Niger Delta should be a Dubai, should be an El Dorado on earth. We have no reason to drive through the roads I drove to 48 hours ago. I was trapped between Port Harcourt and Aba from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. I could neither come down from the vehicle nor even drive through it because the entire road was blocked by trucks carrying tankers, carrying fuel, carrying luggage, carrying goods, carrying food items, trapped on the road for those 5 hours. We had to trek out of the place in mud. I am saying what happened 48 hours ago on Saturday. Between Port Harcourt and Aba, a distance of less than 30 minutes. We took 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. I got home here by 11 p.m. on that dangerous road. So if the Niger Delta people, and this is on the super expressway leading from Enugu from the southeast to the south-south, if people can be so heartless to impugn on our own integrity by first of all grabbing monies meant for pregnant women, children, school-going age, and out of school on account of personal interest in order to amass wealth. I don't know what that wealth will be and what it will be for. The man I was just talking about here held a meeting on Sunday, fixed another meeting for Wednesday, and died on Monday morning. So those who are clamoring to get wealth forever, who think that they must kill others for them to survive, by holding the common patrimony of an entire nation, an entire community to themselves, are placing a curse not only to themselves, but to generations of their families unborn. Because those who are dying, the blood is on their head. And I must tell you that the Niger Delta, through this forensic audit, is going to open up an entire can of worms, and many people, for several regimes to come, we will stay here and continue to question this forensic audit. They should bring it out and let us read it, study it, and then react to it properly and adequately. That is what we demand. And right. I am one of those who is going to sit here and ensure that the forensic audit is not just another exercise in futility, not another white elephant, not another wild goose chase by government in which this report will end up gathering dust in any chamber or in any office. Beyond Buhari, this report must come out.
All right. Let me come back to Mr. Johnson. Already, the presidency has ordered a criminal investigation into about 6 trillion naira worth of monies given to the NDDC since 2001, with some of the details showing that over 13,000 projects have been compromised. This investigation includes recovery of funds and prosecution of persons. How do you think that will pan out?
First, let me just let me start by adding or reacting to what he said. He made mention of the fact that whatever fraud committed or that have been committed over time in the commission only involve people from the region. Now, from our research and investigation, that is not absolutely correct. Now, let me just let you know clearly that what Julius Nyerere described in his book about neocolonialism, it's happening in the Niger Delta. Now, he said he described that colonialism came out through the front door, but came in through the back door through neocolonialism. So, monies are given to the Niger Delta Commission in the open. But a lot of times, can I let you know that those who spend the money are here in Abuja? And we were able to bring some of this fact out before, but now, of course, we have learned our lesson. So if the government will investigate very clearly, and if you even look at the budget of NDDC, you will be seeing different interests of individuals who are not from the region flying left, right, and center. Now, the few contractors who get paid in the commission regularly over time, go and check those they are working for. Now, number two, okay, let me just react straight to what you said. Now, those number of projects mentioned by our fact and figures, I think they may not be absolutely correct. Again, I do not think by the fact we have that Niger Delta Commission has gotten 6 trillion naira in that, in that 18 or 19 years by the figures we have. So that is why we keep saying that we want to see the details so we can compare notes. Now, some are already insinuating that perhaps some people deliberately added some, project so that in the times to come, the commission will keep paying for project that was never awarded. Don't forget that some accusations came out last year that some contracts were backdated and some people were having certificate of completions of job that was never done at all, backdated. So we may be enslaving ourselves if we do not query, question, interrogate that report further to ensure that we have the absolute truth. The truism about the happenings in the Niger Delta. Else, we may succeed in enriching some people, having certificates, having papers that they will keep earning money from for years to come. So, Sheon, I will be very careful about commenting on what the minister said on the number of projects and the amount given to the Niger Delta Commission over time. But I can tell you that by the figures we have, the Niger Delta Commission never received 6 trillion naira in that 19 years. So while we are trying to be careful not to look as though, you're on the side of the oppressors, those who have, impoverished the people over time, those who deliberately watch people suffer, just because they want to line up their pocket, we are also careful not to also ensure that we raise another army of thieves who will hold us in the jugular with some fake certificates and keep collecting money years to come. So let me be very careful on commenting directly on that. However, on the fact that the government will open criminal investigation. I want to applaud this for once and pray that the government will have the nerve to do this. Now, why am I saying that I pray that the government will have the nerve to do this? Let me trace you back to last year. Now, in the month of April, we came out with documents showing that against the stand of the Commission and the interim committee, that they have actually awarded COVID-19 contract fraudulently. And we pointed out a lot of fraud there, that monies were even paid to these contractors. After bringing this out, what the president did next was to extend their tenure. Now, not relenting, we still came out with additional document. Fact, went to the National Assembly, showing that battle nearly cost me my life. Now, I will leave that details. Now, after doing all of that, the president said, now, we did all of that because we believed in the president. I mean, based on what he has, what we know him for, that he stands for over the years. And he said he was going to wait on the National Assembly report before before acting. The Senate report was submitted to Mr. President, even though we were not sure if the House of Rep report was submitted or not, but we were so sure of the Senate report. It was submitted, but the president did not do anything. And let me just let you know, in case we have forgotten, that when the interim committee was eventually removed, they were not removed based on the allegations of corruption under a government that stands for anti-corruption, but they were removed on some flimsy court case or court injunction, even though we exposed that earlier. So for me, I want to believe that for once the government will have the spine and the gut to do this, not just for the government, but for the people. Now, remember last year, when we were bringing out, at the beginning of that agitation, we clearly said that post-COVID, Nigeria may not remain the same for a while. The world will suffer economic recession. It is, of course, that was a given. You can take that for granted. And we said the need for us, yes, the need for us to do that was to ensure that the monies of the people would be kept in place so that post-COVID, we can have monies to spend. But that was not the case. Let me let you know that between May and June this year, so let me land this one, the commission was so broke. See, okay, July they got some money and August again, early August. But again, do you know when they received their salary last month? On the 3rd of the month. That shows that the finance of the commission is not healthy. And even what we are fighting against has it stopped in the place.
All right, just a moment. We're due for a break. I understand now that we have the Deputy Governor of Edo State who has since joined us after the battle we've had with connection with him from Benin City. He's since joined us now. But let's take a minute break. And when we come back, we'll talk to him, of course. We'll find some moments to rest the case of the NDDC with my guest in our Abuja studio. But we'll also speak with the Edo State Governor after returning from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let me allow Mr. Cletus Obun to come back into the conversation. Mr. Obun, give us a sense of what you make of what Mr. Johnson just said before we went on that break. Those tests are supposed to be prosecuted. The possibility of recovery of funds, those who will return monies if they've not completed the projects. And those are some of the possibilities since the president had ordered prosecution of persons and companies who took money but never prosecuted the projects.
Now, let me make this conversation, let me put myself clear on this. Two things are involved in this discussion. The forensic audit is intended to correct what has gone wrong with NDDC and going forward, how to avoid the banana peel that has kept NDDC stunted and without making motion without movement. That is precisely what this forensic audit is intended to do, not just to punish people, because if you end up punishing everybody and not going forward to stop it and then bring NDDC to perform its core mandate as enshrined in the act that established it, then we have achieved nothing with the forensic audit. To that extent, I will tell you that what we are engaged in now, after forensic audit, I want the question, what next? We might get to that later on, but I will want to overshoot myself by saying that the correction and the criminal investigation and the criminal trial of those who are going to be found culpable or wanting or being indicted, because an indictment does not in any way amount to a criminal conviction. Therefore, if there is suspicion that somebody must have done something with the 13,777 jobs that were not completed or poorly executed, then clearly that is only a deterrent for what should not happen in future. If that is accepted, can we also, as Niger Deltans, I hear him say that it is not just about Niger Delta recolonization, new colonization, and all forms of backhanded jobs by people from the outside. Nobody, repeat, nobody from any part of Nigeria can infiltrate and do anything in the Niger Delta without the due permission of officers presiding and superintending on the NDDC. To that extent, I will insist that everything has its causative agency in the Niger Delta, and everybody in the Niger Delta must take full responsibility for the irresponsible action of allowing outsiders to infiltrate. We have the North-East Development Commission. If you are not getting contacts, then why do you allow other people to get contacts in their own place? So I do not think that we should blame those who are benefiting from either our stupidity or our docility, our sheer sterility, intellectual sterility. We must have to come out and admit that. Having said so, can we also, as Niger Deltans, here I will call on our father, E.K. Clark. I will call on people like Senator Ndomegba. I will call on Godfrey Akpabio, the NDDC, to please ask the federal government, and already with Kola Woleme, when we leave the studio, we are going to go to court to ask the Minister of Finance how he worked the mathematical magic of giving 5 billion to NDDC for 9 months, when the Act under Section 14 tells us that 15% of the total sum going to the 9 Niger Delta states should be accruable to the accounts of NDDC. I want to ask whether that 15% is static. Even the oil prices have never been static. Are you saying that when we budgeted $45, $65 to a barrel, we were asking for 15%? Will 15% be 5 billion? And when it came to 11 naira, will it also still be 5 billion? How come that money never varies with the variation of oil prices, which is a determinant of the federation account? Secondly, ecological fund, 50% of ecological fund of this federation ought to be going accruable to the Niger Delta state. 9, should, from the 58% of the accruable income of the revenue of accruable to the federation account, should be given to NDDC. Since the inception for 19 years, 2001 till today, not a dime of that 50% has ever been given. I'm aware that our people, the Niger Delta people, even the NDDC boards that have been there, have never questioned or interrogated the absence and the non-compliance with Section 14 of the NDDC Act. They have never been compliant, either by the 15% accruable to the 9 states. That is to say that if the 9 states get 1,000 each, 15% of 9,000, not drawn from the 1,000, but from the 58% of the federation account, should be drawn and given to Niger Delta. Nothing like that has ever happened since the inception of NDDC. And since these 9 months of this interim administration, 5 billion has been given. Is 15% of that money accruable to the 9 states? Is it 5 billion? Yet, on a daily basis, we harangue ourselves about what is happening here without looking at, first of all, whether we are getting on the basket what we deserve and what we ought to get. I'm calling on Niger Delta leaders, PANDEF, and other CSOs, civil society organizations, to come out and get to question the Nigerian Federation. For us, who are agitating for the best for the Niger Delta, I would like to see the East-West Road completed to Calabar. I would like to see a monorail, intercity flights owned by NDDC to ease transportation within the Niger Delta. I would like to see street lights and drive from Port Harcourt to Calabar without stopping on the road, without being afraid of anything. Do we have any security gadgets? Up till today, we are still talking about drinkable water in Niger Delta. It's a shame, it's a scam, and it's a scandal that we have NDDC, we have local governments, and we have everybody, and yet we are still talking the way we are talking. Let us interrogate the sources first of NDDC funding, Niger Delta funding, Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. Please, the Minister of Niger Delta, he was appointed there to represent Niger Delta. He should please initiate a procedure in which these statutory allocations to Niger Delta NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, are obeyed, respected by the Minister of Finance and put into account. If they do not, we are going to issue an ultimatum in which we are going to question this and ask it in court and demand that that amount of money should be given. Secondly, going forward, Shehu, I would like to see Niger Deltans come out in full force to demand that every village, every community that ought to benefit from NDDC should have a copy of the forensic audit and interrogate it using their own youth groups and organizations, such that at the end of this audit, we should never have what we are having today again in the Niger Delta region. That, for me, is the only way in which this forensic audit can have meaning and an enduring legacy of the Buhari years and the Akpabio years for NDDC and the Niger Delta people.
Mr. Johnson, weighing on this one, because the whole conversation tonight is not about NDDC as an organization or Ministry of Niger Delta. It's about the Niger Delta people. How this forensic report and the outcome thereof will affect the lives and livelihoods of the people of the Niger Delta. And going forward, how subsequent funds are going to be utilized effectively for the good of the people of the Niger Delta. If you like, touch on what Mr. Obun just said about the effectiveness and the monies accrued to the Niger Delta and how it's properly being used.
Seun, you know, he said something that is so that was so interesting. The fact that the government keeps short-changing the commission, and that is why I keep saying that the figure that was released, I hope it is not also meant to hide the weaknesses of the government in terms of its remittance to the commission. That's why I said I want to be very careful passing comment on that figure, because what we have, it doesn't tally at all. As I talk to you today, the government is owing the Niger Delta Commission over 1.7, okay,
1.9 trillion.
Yeah, about 1.9 trillion. I'm very sure of 1.7 trillion naira. Now, one of the reasons why, you know, we had to just, you know, slow down, because we asked ourselves, are you fighting to destroy the region or you're fighting to develop, the region? We are not out to demonize the region. So we also hope that the present scale of figures, of number of projects that are unfounded, are not meant to demonize the people, so that we can't, have the God to ask for what is due to us from the government. Now that again, must be looked into, because here is it. When you have a people that is being exploited without redress, and the government with power without responsibility, now what you will have over time will be a gap in development, which we are having today. Now, going forward, the Niger Delta people, what should be our response? What should be our response mechanism to this report? Number one, my thief, please, that is your thief. This is my thief. That should be left out of something like this. Everyone involved, whether you're high or mighty, whether you are mine or against me, we should ensure that everyone is brought to book. Number one. Number two, now what should be our response to it is to ensure that those who represent us. Now, for example, let me mention this. When the minister spoke to us last year, he said that in the actual sense, what we did actually helped him to know some few things in the area. However, he is of the opinion that we went about it the wrong way, which we told him clearly, this is the best way to get this done for us. Now, the fact is that, are we also having a good representation right now? Are we not shortchanging ourselves because we want to be politically correct? Now, how is it that we are insisting that an interim administration or a sole administrator is what you require for NDDC? At this point in time, when the law, the act setting up the place says that the 9 states should be represented, at least one person per state, and not just that, the Ministry of Environment is meant to be represented so that what is due to us in the ecological fund we can get, so that environmental hazard on community due to oil exploitation can also be looked into. The Ministry of Finance ought to be represented in the board, but they are not represented right now, and so we are also shortchanging ourselves. Now, there are all, even the oil company that largely funds the activity of the commission are meant to be represented in the board. But right now, there is no board in place. Are we not shortchanging ourselves by playing to the gallery by saying that, oh, we don't need the board in place? Now, please, let us get this one very clear. Now, you do not need any rocket science to put the board in place. The moment you are having very few persons or one person, now that person is subjected to the whims and caprices of the feudalistic lot in government. Now, who put people in power just so that they can make returns to them? And we are saying that it is easy, even right now, to steal because you don't have a board in place. Now, let me just say something very funny. Perhaps if you have a board, one, the people will be able to stand against a few persons. He said that which I agree with him. If due to our docility, some people outside the region are not just controlling us, are feeding fact on our resources. Now, this is make easier when you don't have a board in place. We can also ensure that, if the government is not serious about this, that we also question this one too. Now, you've given over time the excuse of forensic audit. Is NDDC the first commission that will be audited? So let's even say, okay, we agree to those times. Is the audit not over? So why are we not taking steps to set up the board and ensure that the place function appropriately? I am saying that the political lot, the feudal lot, may ensure that we don't have the board in good time, not because it will pay us, but because it will pay them to control the affairs of the commission. Unfortunately, to be politically correct, some political appointees may not have a choice. I am in the knowing, so I can tell you facts and figures that they hold some people in the jugular, to ensure that they keep feeding from that place. If the government is serious about developing the commission, it starts by obeying the law, the act that set up the place. And the one thing that is very important that we must also make, know about the commission. He said that leaders of the Niger Delta should rise up for once to ensure that each year, when the National Assembly passes budget, do we get to see what they pass for us? Now, do we interrogate the budget? Now, do we even ensure that we supervise the implementation? I think the days, by now should have, it should be by now a thing of the past when you don't even know what is budgeted, not even supervising them. So the leaders should rise up for once to ensure that the development of the place is paramount. Is made paramount to all of us, not just some peanuts in our pocket. That won't take us anywhere.
Mr. Obon, he mentioned the constitution of the board of the NDDC. I know a lot of people have been agitated about that, but it's been made clear by the minister and the federal government that that will only happen after the forensic audit. Now that the forensic audit has been submitted, the report of the forensic audit has been submitted, do you have an idea of the possibility of the board being properly constituted? Of course, there are politics about the constitution also.
Like he said, we are all very active in the activities of this body because it was meant to ameliorate the developmental gaps in the Niger Delta and the deficits, which regular government and agencies have not been able to fill. So I will tell you that the clamor for a statutory board, genuine as it is, will put us back to where we come from. Now the audit is out. Like I said, it will become a template upon which any board must not go below. To do that, you need that forensic audit to be questioned by us. We need to see it. We cannot have a board come back and say, we didn't know that, we thought that, since we didn't get the audit, we cannot act retroactively. This forensic audit must come out with a template upon which any board coming again should have no excuse for the Niger Delta people for falling back into this same trap, 19-year-old trap. To fall back into that trap is eternal idiocy. And I don't think that anybody in Niger Delta, with people like John Pepper Clark, some of the biggest intellectuals you ever know in this country came from there. We cannot be products of the very high class and turn around to behave like the low class, like third class maroons. I am insisting, and it is my opinion, and I think that it is founded on the truth, eternal truth, that if this forensic audit should form a basis upon which any board coming, and to bring any board now will make them wait for this same report, and we keep using it as another excuse to say we cannot act because we are told by the president that. We don't want to have that excuse. If it will take them 1 month, 2 months, let us rather demand that everything about this audit should end in 90 days, should end in 60 days, should end in 30 days. We must put that pressure. It is part of the duty of citizens to make demands on elected and presiding officers of state. We have been long abdicated that responsibility. And when a few of us get involved in it, Somebody even told me that one day as president or as governor of my state, I will carry placards against myself. It is not true. If what you have been clamoring for has not been done, my people will say that once the injury is not over, when the saw is not out, flies will not stop following that leg. So as long as what we are agitating for has not been corrected, we will continue to talk till the last day God takes the breath from us. So the forensic audit must not just be brought and delivered to us. We must make recommendations that comes out as what they call either white paper or whatever it is. Let us have that and have it pasted in every community and say to you that this is what we took so many years and so much money to do as a forensic audit. We cannot go below this anymore. No more duplication of project, no more collection of monies without execution, and anybody who does, again, sanctions. This criminal investigation should be, the amendment of that will come with this forensic audit, that having seen this, any person who is given a project and does not, there should be sanctions for it. Because people are not sanctioned, people get away with it. Yes.
Mr. Obun, if over 13,000 projects, according to the federal government, has been compromised, heads will roll. I mean, if those facts are correct, how bad will things go if people start to be prosecuted on the projects that have been compromised?
Well, some of us are going to testify because I know projects in my community and several littered from Isoko land through Ogoni land down to Akwa Ibom, Eket area, Oron area. I know several projects that you will see signposts and no project is there. We have several of them. When they say 13,000, I'm thinking it's a gross underestimation. I'm surprised. I'm very sure that he has gone, even in his own home state alone. I'm very sure that what we are discussing here is a gross underestimation of what they wrought in the Niger Delta. So they are only talking about the abandoned ones or the ones not done or don't exist at all. You will see something like street lights in Uyo. Which part of Uyo is never discussed, it's never described. There is no geographical location for that project. So you just walk into your compound, your family compound, and plant 4 poles there. It becomes electrification of Uyo, and then people are paid for it. We have such projects. I am saying that such people, when they are discovered by this forensic audit, should be serving life jail term. Those who do not do roads, people who died on those roads, that is death penalty.
You should be rotting in jail for the rest of your remaining life. To also react to what the question I asked you now. Yeah, Mr. Johnson, so is it true what he said as to the extent of the fraud or the compromise that we saw and what the federal government is saying? If over 13,000 projects have been compromised. Compromise means whether they are not done, monies are being collected, they are unfinished, they are abandoned, and the federal government said, in fact, recovery of funds will be involved in the prosecution. And when we're talking about heads rolling, how bad will it be?
Sheila, I think, was it Thomas Bandura or B.F. Skinner that talked about operant conditioning learning? See, whatever someone, if you do something, the reaction you get from it will determine if you do it again or not. If we do not make examples of people that will serve as deterrent, not just for contractors in the Niger Delta, but across the country, I don't think it will be able to stop these from happening. Except people start seeing, start seeing state actions, serious actions against those who defraud the people. I do not think we will have any chance surviving any test of history in terms of how we are able to see. Today, we go outside this country borrowing, and we do not understand the fact that when they say we don't have a business borrowing, that is a fact. It is the fact because if we have saved what we have, we may not even need to start borrowing, to kickstart development. Perhaps we'll be borrowing to have an expedite growth. But today we are borrowing not for any expedite growth, to kickstart development in different places. So if the government is serious about that statement that earth will roll, for me, I don't even believe that fingers will roll based on antecedent. But I want to be optimistic that for once, the government will stand its foot, and do something with this. How bad will it get? It will get very bad. It will get very messy because people not see. You will have You have people in different institutions being indicted, being involved in this. There are some people that you may not be able to catch, by the hand. I remember last year, I was asked at the National Assembly that do I have a proof, of members being involved in project. And the fact that I wish I had that day, maybe it would have been the best place to speed it. But the fact is that you don't expect people in such places to be naive enough to use their companies to, to get contract. They will always use pseudos, use people. But when those people are gotten, sure, of course, they will get to their taskmasters. So it will get very messy. Even around the presidency, it will get very messy. If they should do thorough jobs, it will get very messy. Institutions, people in different institutions will be involved.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kolawole Johnson and Mr. Cletus Obon. Gentlemen, I must sincerely thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it. And we look forward to that, the publishing of the forensic report, or the forensic audit report. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's unfortunate that we couldn't get back the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Comrade Philip Shuabu, but we'll try to get those views and you get his thoughts about what exactly is happening in the Edo PDP. But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.